Awesome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you guys are. Hey, Plats. Hey, Caleb. Welcome. Good to see you. Feel free to unmute.
Great to see you guys. Woo. Thanks,
So
Laura.
we are just here to chat about how to kill it on video. That's the focus of our conversation today. Want this to be a completely organic conversation, not a formal webinar trainee kind of thing. I mean, I've got slides because this is a program that I do for clients all over the place, especially in the last 18 months or so. So I just wanted to share a lot of the major takeaways or sort of big picture pieces, answer any questions that you have. I can either just go through my stuff as I sort of I just let it go on autopilot, and then you can interrupt and you hit the brakes anytime you want. Hey, Brian, welcome. Or else we can just redirect if you guys want to hijack the conversation and we want to go down a rabbit hole on some topics. That's great too. Let me ask this first, if we can go into, I'm going to put the conversation in gallery mode here. Awesome. Tell me, what kind of video work are all of you looking to do? And when you think about killing it on video, what does that mean to you? I'm going to take some notes as we go. Feel free to
shout out. So I'm creating a digital online winery, and I'm going to be doing that through video storytelling, both of what I do and also building the customer journey. So I'm building funnel number one, which is the entrance funnel to my avatar. And I want to have video at every level, like everyone is pointing out. So to move them through the journey, raise curiosity, lower stress and friction, and get everybody through the whole process, and then continue to have video communications and do things like this as well, like you're doing here, Laura, to serve customers in the future for club experience.
Nice. Club experience. I like that idea. Awesome. Thank you. Who else? What are you looking to do when you think about killing it on video? What does that mean for your purposes?
Yeah, for me, I think just kind of coming out of business mastery, thinking about how we're showing up on our website. There's not a lot of video right now. And most of our social media posts are not video. So that was a big wake up call for me, that not only do we need to start doing a lot more video, but rather than just winging it and trial and error, I'd rather really get some coaching on how do we do it well from the beginning.
Sure. Smart. Great. And what's your business, Josh?
Oh, there we go. Wealth management firm. So I'm a fiduciary.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Terrific. Who else?
Well, I think for me, I'm so used to, you've heard this before, so pardon the redundance for those of you who've heard me do this, say these things. I'm used to being live and feeding off the energy of the group and transferring energy from myself and engaging the group, and just on video, it's difficult for me to get my energy up because I feed off of the energy of the group, but also to be able to transmit the energy to the group and keep them engaged. It's so much more difficult since things have gone virtual and in filming video. And so, I do like the incantation beforehand. I do down the rebounder, just try to get my energy up. But, just any tips and tricks on how to engage energetically and keep people magnetized to the message.
Yep.
Any tips to do that more effectively on video are really helpful.
What kind of engagements are you doing with people on video? Are you doing trainings? Is it one-on-one coaching? Are you doing pre-recorded conference talks? Is it just marketing videos?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all of that. It started off with live. I put it in the chat box a little bit, but when we went virtual, I was doing live webinars and workshops and one-on-one and group coaching. And now I'm actually recording content with workshops. I'm going to be recording sales videos. I'm going to be, everything is going to be recorded for teaching people how to create a high-level customer experience in sales. So it's not as much how to sell, although there is a little bit of sales process there, but it's also, how do you wow your customer and get big fans in your fan club and keep them coming back? And then also, teaching people they're really good at their jobs, so they're promoted to management, but they don't know how to lead. And so I'm doing it like a 10's workshop series on just basic leadership skills, how to engage and influence people, and then women in leadership. So there's three different things that I'm doing right now. But again, just really trying to keep people engaged and involved in the message, get something out of it, and stimulate the energetic cells in their brain so they're absorbing the message and they're able to be motivated and inspired through video.
Nice. Thanks, Frankie. Who else? If I get a sense of what you're using it for, I can be more specific. Hey, Brian.
Hey, I'm here to pick up just some distinctions on the visual paradigm and from the NLP perspective, right? Like how things work visually. I'm dominantly, I've conditioned myself in kinesthetic and auditory digital. So like the words and the feelings in the words. And so from a visual point of view, it's really how to create how to also integrate in and create that perception that I want. And so I'm happy to be able to learn from, I'm grateful to be able to learn from your expertise in this area, Laura. So thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thanks. Hey, Rosie, welcome. You're on mute. I see lips moving.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Nice.
I'm going to be a little bit casual here because I have to head somewhere, but I'm so excited to hear more about this.
Terrific. What are you doing with video? Why do you want to kill it on video?
I want to kill it because I want to get my message out on video. And I remember asking my 20-year-old to help me. She goes, "Oh, Mom, you don't need to do that." And I'm like, "Yes, I do."
Now, why does she think you don't need it? Because you're just old and old people don't need to worry about this stuff?
I'm old.
I'm right there with you, by the way. So
and not happening enough. So anyways, but there's, so that's really, so everything, all of the above, I've hunted down YouTube videos. Everyone has their own equipment, and it's just, and your today's broadcast is going to be very timely. So I appreciate
it. I'm glad. Okay.
I'm more confused than anything.
That I understand. That I absolutely understand. And it just, I'll give my background and sort of how I got from there to here in brief after I hear from everybody else. Gretchen or Amy, Michael, quick insights?
Sure. I actually am not chiming in because I don't have, I feel like I've listened to other people say it better than I would have said it. Like when Caleb talks about, taking people through a purchasing journey and wanting to make that clear and frictionless. And, other people have chimed in about, how this impacts marketing and, how, it's the business mastery sort of awareness of how, this is the tool we need to learn how to use. So I don't have anything to add on top of that. Like I'm using it for a retail website and I'm really just looking, we don't have any video on there. So it's a total beginner and trying to learn anything I can learn. I'm here to learn.
Okay.
I'm right there with you, Gretchen. Everything you just said, ditto.
Awesome.
And Laura, for context of what I do, one of the most key thing is really getting, right now, it's getting cryptocurrency mining into places in businesses where they don't believe they have a potential profit center. They don't see the opportunity. So they have a location, they have free electricity, they have capital, and they don't see that they could be making a 3x return on their money in that space.
Great. Thank you. I like 3xing. It's always better than 1xing or no xing or minus xing. I'm not great at math, but I can do that math. Let's see, Michael. All good? Just moving on? Okay, sounds good. He's going to ditto everybody else's comments. And yes, feel free in the chat with each other, exchange contact information. I have no problem. And you should also be able to do private messaging to each other if there's something you want to exchange contact information or whatever else. I don't have any reservations about, you're not supposed to interrupt talk. So let's see, a couple of things that people have said are distinctions that need to be made. And we often don't think about certain distinctions when we're in person. Okay. I'm in front of a group where it's a larger audience or a smaller, or it's, one-on-one. When you're in, there are things we have to consider here virtually that we never had to consciously plan for before. Things like, are you meeting people live, or are you doing a pre-recorded video of some sort, right? Anything that's going to be a marketing video that's going to be just permanently on your website, that's asynchronous recording as opposed to synchronous, which is the live. So that's immediately, to Frankie's comment, going to change your energy level because there's no audience to feed off of, but you have to make them feel like they're there. You have to make them feel like you're having that conversation with them in that very moment. So you do have to dig deep. And we do have to think about if you're scripting versus if you're just using talking points versus if you are winging it on the far end of the spectrum. And please do note that there is a massive grayscale distinction between scripting and winging. And neither is ideal. It's in the middle. Preparation, practice, editing. There's a lot of stuff in the middle. So please do not think, well, if I script it, I sound too stiff, so I just have to wing it. No, that's like saying I have to go vegan or Atkins. Those are the only two options. Like that is not at all how it works. You find the right combination for you. So, we'll talk a little bit about how to get into that mindset, how to shift out of the, I can't do this on video. I really loved, I think it was Todd Hartley's, he mentioned two of those big mindsets that, I don't have the right equipment to do it, to be good on video. And I don't like the way I look on video. The third most common one is that he didn't say, but that I have found with my clients is I don't know how to be myself on video. That's the big thing. Because live, you can kill it. People love you in person. That's why you're successful. You know how to connect with your audience. You speak to their heart, eye contact, all that kind of stuff. And when there's this technology chasm between you, quite physically, that most people feel like it just rips the rug right out from under you. So we can talk a lot about how to get that mental block out of the way, those limiting beliefs. The fact that there's technology should make no difference whatsoever. And that includes whether we're live and synchronous like this, or whether you're doing a pre-recorded video and you need to just pretend there's 1,000 people, or pretend you're one-on-one sitting right across the table, or better yet, right next to the person that you want to talk to. And it really, the biggest overall thought that should be your guiding principle in setting up video is how to minimize distractors that emphasize the digital divide between you. You want to take away any sort of, and I'll explain, you'll see as we talk how this works, but there's so many little details that we don't choose to control because we often don't realize that we can control them. And then when you realize you can control them, you go, oh my gosh, I just feel like I'm so much closer to you. It doesn't feel so artificial. It doesn't feel so inauthentic or so awkward. Awkward is a really common issue when people are on video. They just feel awkward, unnatural, inauthentic, all that kind of stuff. Hey, patients, welcome. So just being able to figure out how to manage, manipulate, whatever you want to say, factors to make it feel more and more like you're just sitting there across the table from each other. That's what you want to be able to do on video. So, some of the things that we'll talk about are related to setting you up here, getting your physical environment so that it removes all of those limitations. And then once you've got yourself together, then there's the engagement piece, right? Which is when you let people in, especially when it is a live or at least a synchronous event. People, no matter how well you plan, people have a way of messing things up. It's just the nature of the beast. Everything works great on paper, right? Everything works great the way you planned it. And then you click join and stuff falls apart. So there's getting you straight. And then there's being ready for the floodgates when you open the door to see what happens from there. So those are the two really big categories that we need to think about. And this all happened for me about 2 years ago, just before the pandemic hit. I was already doing coaching. Hey, Cloud, welcome. I was already doing training and coaching virtually for a lot of my clients, especially the one-on-one coaching part. So I was using FaceTime, Skype, whatever would either get through their firewall or was compatible with whatever device they were on. So I was already used to that, but I was doing it a lot less formally than this. In January of 2020, I decided I wanted to launch a podcast. And I wanted it to be video based, not just audio, because then frankly, you have two pieces of collateral to leverage any way you want instead of just the audio anyway. And I knew I was going to be doing more virtual trainings and things at speaking engagements. So I wanted the setup. What you're looking at here, this is my guest room. This is my house. This is not a formal studio. This is a banner on a wire or a metal frame. And on weekends when my goddaughter is here, the banner comes forward, all the equipment shoves into the corners, the couch bed pops out. I have a guest room for a weekend, and then I roll it back up. It's it's not about, well, I don't have a studio and I don't have, neither do I. Who does? Nobody. Welcome to post-COVID. What worked in my favor was two things. One, timing for once smiled, and it took me about 2 months to really work out all the kinks, to start from scratch, do all the research and trial and error. What kind of equipment did I need? What was going to work? What did I bought this microphone, high-end mic, got great reviews, got great, references, only to find out that this mic doesn't actually come with a cord. Awesome. That kind of stuff. So it's like, all right, well then 2 weeks later, I get the cord that comes in. Oh, the cord doesn't, I need a cloud lifter because this microphone is so sensitive that it actually doesn't work unless you buy an amplifier to connect in, because it's so sensitive, it doesn't even pick me up when I'm here. And you're going. So over the 2 months that it took me to put together this instantly looking just right video studio, I figured out all the trial and error stuff. And what I can share with you now, and of course, about 2 months after I figured it out is when COVID hit. So I was one of like 6 people on the planet who was actually ready to go all video all the time. So from there, what became a major program that I've offered my clients is what I call virtual influence. And it's a intensive training, soup to nuts, on how to get your people up and ready to go, whether you're just an IT team or you've got your salespeople or you're a bunch of independent, reps, et cetera. The point is that this is your brand. That's all there is to it. I don't care if you're an employee who does coding and IT work or whatever it is, or you are the face and the voice of the company. You're representing your personal brand to your internal audience. They have to know who you are. And this is the only way they know you anymore. Maybe they know you once in a while in person, but for the most part, this is the default, and in person is the exception to the rule. So get that this is your branding. And it's not that you have to buy thousands of dollars worth of equipment, but you don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish. It's your brand. So they need to see and recognize and feel you as being as awesome as you are. So taking these steps to get yourself set up and to be able to connect with your audience is really a mission critical cornerstone to your success. So, all right, from there, let's see. Anybody have questions before we start?
Blowing my mind, Laura. You're blowing my mind.
Blowing the mind. Where's the little
Blowing
emoji when you need it? Tell me what's blowing your mind. Where's the aha moment so far?
When you said that my brand is video, is Zoom, and that secondary is in person now. It's like, what? Like the thing I've been like not at all focusing on, like 120% of the time, is like the brand is like the dominant thing in the world. Nuclear reactor just exploded in my brain.
And usually that explosion is followed by that little voice that goes, no, like, that's not what I want. I don't like that. It's his life. Thanks for sharing that, Brian. Anybody else? Feedback?
Yeah. I really love what you're saying about getting rid of the distractions, because that's one of the things that drives me to weakness, is that I'm ready to bring a lot of energy, but then I'm like, oh, wait, oh no, and I get worried about background, about all these other little problems, and that crushes my energy and my attention to the message and the camera. So getting the strategic tools in place so I'm at ease, making sure that I'm being on target, on subject, on energy.
Yep. Because when you feel comfortable and you're just easy on camera and you're as natural, it helps everybody else let down their guard. To Brian's point earlier about NLP and whatever, people feed off your energy before you open your mouth. And they use the energy that you convey as a filter through which they interpret what you say, and then they feed it back to you. So if you're kind of a little awkward and amateurish and clunky, and when you're doing it, and they're going to be like, okay, this feels a little weird. That it just doesn't say, I want that guy. He's got what I need. Cloud, what's up? I see a hand. Oop, but you're on mute. Unmute.
Ironically, my question's about sound. So thank you.
Awesome. Good.
Okay. So my question is for me, and then it's for all of us. And if anyone's annoyed, I'm asking this on your behalf. So what? I want to know if any of us are not clear. I have such I get so annoyed when people are on camera.
Yep.
It's like crackly, or you have to work to hear them. So
Yep.
this is a brand new iMac. So one, is my sound okay?
It's okay.
I'm
Yes.
good.
Not great.
I would give it a
okay.
B. I'd give it a B.
Okay. I am an overachiever. I want an A. So
But-
right over there, I have a Yeti. How are you yay or nay on Yeti?
I think Yetis are great. Yeah. Yeti's a good mic, all things
Yeti
considered.
too?
So
Okay.
get it. Where's your Yeti? And why are you not using it?
My new computer has all these porty thingies that are a USB-C,
Mhm.
and I have to adjust it to the thingy to put it in the thingy so it's a C.
So to the extent that you have a new laptop or whatever it is, it only has these little USB-C ports in it, which a lot of people do. You get the dongle, otherwise known as the adapter, or as my husband likes to call it, a gazinta. Because this part goes in, yes, because this part
Is he
goes into your
Jewish?
computer and this part goes into the other cord. So
Yeah.
it connects. So you get yourself a gazinta. I'm a Mac user. I got a desktop iMac. I use iPhones, whatever else. So you just all the time I was traveling to other clients to do live trainings, I had to have a bag full of these things because I never knew what kind of projector system, whatever they were going to have. I spent more money in gazintas than I spent on the damn computer. So, it's just the way of the world. Just get yourself one. This one's for my Ethernet cable.
Got it.
And I'm plugging this
And
into because
Got it.
no one, and I'm going to jump right ahead to one of the topics, you have no business being on Wi-Fi. If you're on Wi-Fi, shame on you. Stop, go back, dig that old Ethernet cable that looks like a phone cord, one of these guys, dig it out of that dusty box of wires and little keyboards and things that you swore you couldn't bring yourself to throw out, but you didn't think you'd ever actually need again when everything went Wi-Fi and went Bluetooth a couple of years ago. Dig it out. And if not, order one on Amazon. And if you're going to tell me that you can't because your modem or your router is, down the hall or down the stairs, look, when I first, again, guest room of my house, converted to part-time studio. My original modem and router were in the room that is downstairs and on the other side of the house. I had to buy 100-foot cable and run it down the hallway, through the banister of the stairs, across the house. I had to put extra mats down because my kid at that time was 3. So he could trip over lint. I love him, but coordination is not his strength. And he is, just look, if you're not supposed to touch something, that's like, catnip to a 3-year-old. So all I needed him to do was have me be in the middle of a training and him go, gee, what's this wire? That's not a good thing. So, mats, duct tape, whatever you need to pin it down until you can get a router that's right next to you, get another one. But again, penny wise, pound foolish, plug in. All right. I totally.
So overview, gazintas for all of us. Got it. And then
Yep.
2, if my sound is ever sucky or anybody else's sound is ever sucky, my request is that we always up-level each other.
Yes. Yes. And so here's what we'll do for people who can stick around at another half hour or so towards the end. We're going to talk about a bunch of things and then I'll put us into breakout groups. And when I do the trainings for the team, for my clients live, what I will usually do after we go through a whole bunch of points, I'll put them into breakout groups of like 4. And then you can test each other because you've been listening to me, you've been watching me, you've been taking notes, and then you have a chance to do exactly that, Cloud, to say, okay, now you hear me after you've been watching Laura and now you hear each other and how do I sound compared to everybody else? And you all give each other feedback and it's a lot more efficient in small groups. So it's a good kickstart point. Does that work? Can we hold off for a few minutes on that? Awesome. Thank you. Gretchen, what's up?
So I have to say, this is awesome. My thing that was rather hitting for me is that I, sort of like you, when COVID hit, my whole team is around the world. So we'd already been doing Zoom for 1.5 years, and I had already spent time being like, how do I look at, how's this showing up? And it's funny because right now I'm literally like in my kitchen. If I'm on a proper meeting for work, I have a background and light and a microphone set up.
Yeah.
But my husband's using that for a real work meeting right now. So I am in the kitchen with my Plat friends. But one of the things I noticed, and this I'm just sharing in case it's insightful for anyone else, is that right when COVID hit, everyone went home. And then I was meeting with people, the same people that I met that used to go to offices and would be in like office wear, looking professional, were in tie-dye t-shirts on our calls. And I thought, these are still meetings. So I would still not dress up too much, but always make sure I looked like I was at work, even though I am just in my guest room like you are. In fact, I was sitting on the floor of a closet. I hung a picture down low so no one would know I was on the floor, right? Because I had to craft something that looked professional and I had to be able to work, and my husband and I both needed spaces. So all of a sudden we were improvising. But I really have this thing that actually what's been interesting is that over the course of COVID, because I always show up like looking like a professional on a Zoom meeting, it is interesting. I now run almost all the meetings I'm on. Like I have stepped in as the most professional looking person on like, and I'm with like the State Department. I mean, these are like, but the State Department is showing up like they just got home from the gym. You know, it's amazing. And how much that perception impacts people, and how even things like, if you're like too low on your screen, that if you haven't met them in person, you think they're short. Like there are things people are implying about you, like in terms of where you're framed and how you're lit. And again, I'm doing a terrible job right now. So like don't take this as like, don't take anything from what I'm actually doing right now, but I'm loving what you're saying. Everything about it is resonating and it's awesome.
So we're going to touch on everything that you just said. So thank you for the tee up. I swear she's not a plant. We're going to get into all that stuff in a couple of minutes. I see that Brian wrote a question in the chat about, and by the way, because there's so much that I want to share with you, and I can stick around till for another hour or so. So if to the extent anybody else can, great. Like I said, we're recording this, so we'll share it with anybody else who can't stick around for the whole thing. But I do want to try to hit as many of these as possible, but when I'm excited about something and I know there's a lot to do in a short amount of time, I go into my Jersey girl mode, which is my genetic programming to talk at twice the speed of light when I get really going. So if I dust anyone along the way, by all means, like, do the actual hand flagging or just raise your digital hand or something and be like, dude, you gotta slow down because I have no idea what you just said. So like the other part about being a Jersey girl, that's a good thing is that my skin's really thick. So I will not be offended. You got to work a lot harder than that to offend me. So, all right. From there, Brian's question about raising hands versus muting, unmuting in Zooms. The answer is always, it depends, right? Who's your audience? How big is it? What's the nature of the dynamic? Do people like to step over each other? Is there one or two people who inherently just commandeer and hijack meetings? Are you trying to encourage more people to talk? It really depends on what fodder you have to begin with, what goal you want to achieve in the end. And then you plan from there. You have to pre-plan those kinds of things, which is why in the beginning we talked about even consciously, is this a synchronous or asynchronous event? Is it, if you're doing a webinar, is it like this where you can see people's faces, or are you using a platform where you only see the people's name in the participants window and they can chat with you by text, but they cannot show their faces and they cannot unmute? Like, what options do you have to interact with them? And then you want to decide how to do that. I personally, because of the nature of the trainings that I do, I'm a risk taker. I would always rather give people more opportunity than less to engage with me, because it ups the energy level. And the more even if on a call of 100 people, 6 have their pictures on, great. I'm working with them. I'm going to talk to them. I'm going to play with them. I'm going to watch their reactions. I'm going to feed off of them. You can always have the option to just mute all through your, through the participants window. So you do have that control if you need to take away a little bit of it from them. Once in a while you get somebody who just doesn't realize that they keep unmuting themselves or sharing their screen or doing something. And you're like, you're eating Doritos, please, for the love of God, go on mute, whoever you are on screen 6, but again, it's honestly, it's almost never a question of whether something goes wrong on video. Something's always going to go wrong. It's just a matter of what and when. Okay. Yeah. So understanding that and just being able to roll with it when you understand that, look, it's tech, something is going to get wacky. So when you anticipate it, or at least that something will be there, and to be able to roll with it and make your choices, talk yourself through it, talk them through it, be like, oh, okay, you know what? There's always one. All right, let's figure out who's eating the Doritos over there. Help me out here. All right, going to mute all for now. Please remember this. If you just don't get flustered by it, that's showing leadership in a whole different light, because most people don't know how to do that. And I can't tell you how many people at the ends of the trainings I've done have said in the feedback or the aha moment debriefs at the end, I'm so glad X flub happened to you. I was running a training once and there was a huge storm that came a couple of months ago and my power went out. The only thing I had was my iPhone that had so I had to log back into my own phone. I'm like, hi, everybody, I'm back here. Okay, we're not going to have the PowerPoint for a while, but I'm going to run the show. unplugged basically, and I ran it from here. Was it what I was looking for? No, but there was just enough light that I could do it from the window, and we had stuff to get done. So, but the ability to show that this does not scare me. I have an objective. I'm going to meet that objective. I can't tell you how many people said, I'm so glad that happened to you because I got to watch you pitch your way out of trouble. That was the most valuable lesson,
what you said earlier about like eliminate, what can you do to eliminate like the friction, like the divide between this digital space and like in person? I'm just thinking like in the space, like Gretchen and I are in with like Unblinded, like the level of deep listening and how critical that is. And like, how do you go from like this with an audience versus like on a stage? And on a stage, you're hearing noises, you're seeing things around the room, and it's all dynamic feedback happening. Whereas here, it's like, because there's mute, or there, sometimes it's just a wall of mute. It's like, there's just no auditory feedback to the speaker or back and forth. And so there's like that need to control specific elements and like how to incorporate the feedback so it becomes a little more dynamic and like eliminating of that wall.
Yep. And if nothing else, when you're doing your mental priming ahead of time, close your eyes and envision the audience that you would have. What jokes are they supposed to laugh at? When are you going to watch them do this? Be ready to envision that and feed off of that imaginary audience who's there. And here's an easy hack. When in doubt, it's one of those things that seems like it's so dumb, but I love that how many people email me afterwards and go, when you said it, I thought that was the dumbest thing I ever heard. And I can't believe how well it works. Go to Google Images and look up happy audiences. Find a picture, print it out in color, a little image about yay big of an audience. Let me see if I can find one of mine. It's I think I have it in here someplace. That's
an incredible distinction, because bringing in the visual ahead of time, is like as a non-visually trained person, like I never would have ever done that.
It helps.
That's
it's kind of
massively important.
Yes. Yes.
You're pulling in the information before it's there. That's incredible.
Because when you want them to respond a certain way. And I'm gonna pull up 1 second. Where is it?
Cloud says mic drop. Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Cloud says.
Yes. So here, this is I'm gonna share a screen with you here. I call it Finding Your Muse. And where is it? So when you think about who it is that makes you smile, okay? And because especially if you can't see anybody's face, or if you find that you're distracted by your own image, you can do things like find your family portrait somewhere around your house. You've got a portrait. Hopefully your family's a little more functional than this one, but you get the gist. So you pull out your family portrait that's printed someplace, or you find your picture of some friends that you went on vacation with, the last Plat. If you were in Costa Rica, go find a picture, print it out. You have 1,000 of them. So find something fun, people who love you, think you can do no wrong. Go to Google Images. There's my favorite happy audience picture. Because if I print that out and I put it right above my camera and I'm staring at that audience, those mirror neurons that a few people talked about during Business Mastery the other day, when you see people smiling at you and applauding, you can't help but smile back and feel like, I'm doing well. I can't screw up for them. There's nothing I can do wrong in their eyes. They think I'm perfect. That's awesome. And that gives you juice. Does it seem stupid to say it like that? Yes, because it's an image that was probably taken 20 years ago. They don't know you. Doesn't matter. Your mirror neurons just feed off of it like it was anything else. So, and you know what, if you're not a people person, which I don't think you are I don't think you're not, because you're here and you're a Plat and whatever else, but let's say you like fur babies better than real babies. Fine, get your fur babies. I don't care. If you sit there and you look at that picture and you go, oh, that's so cute. I can't not just sort of smile, and like that robotic, I am in front of a camera now, just goes away. Whatever it takes. Here's the thing. Each and every one of you knows that someone in the world thinks you're just awesome. And they would give their eye teeth to spend as much time with you as is humanly possible. Why? What is it that they see in you? Who are you when you're around them that just makes them want to be around you all the time? Dig deep, find that person, that part of you. And if necessary, find a picture of that person who feels that way about you and put them up there and talk to them. But you need someone to focus on who's going to give you that circle of energy. And is it all mindset? Yes, but who cares? As long as it works, right? Because otherwise you just end up staring at yourself. It's just your video. And that's not where you're going to most likely get all of your energy. Even when I'm looking at a just a whole, if I'm doing a live conference talk where it's just me and 500 people on a list of participants, I'm talking to them. I've done my talks enough. I know the reaction I get from my audience. So I am hearing their laughter. I'm hearing their responses. I'm watching the hands shoot up. When I say, so tell me this, true or false, raise your hand if you agree that when you have a good hair day, everything just goes better. Right. And you just burst out laughing, and I get guys who will type in any day, any hair day would be a good day, whatever it is. Like, I know that that's going to happen. And I've done that joke enough times that I know how it lands. So I'm going to say it anyway and pretend that I can see 1,000 people in my audience who are all bursting out laughing, putting up 2 hands at a time, who are nodding, doing whatever else. And then watch the chat box explode with true, 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 true. I know it's going to happen, but I have to evoke it. I can't just be like, so, true or false, right? If good hair days are good hair days, crickets. Like, you have to bring it out. And I'm not a stand-up. I should clarify. I am a linguist. I'm a teacher. And my PhD is in education and linguistics. I look at how speech processes in the brain, how we learn. I know the math of language, like coders know the math of how your computer works, that kind of stuff. I am not an actor. I'm not a singer. I cannot teach you to perform, to act. I can only teach you how to find the best version of yourself where your message gets through. That whole, what business are you in, or what business are you really in? My business, I'm an executive communication coach. The business I'm really in is I help leaders inspire. And because my job is to make sure that when you talk, people listen and get it. And that's what we're doing here. Making sure that when you talk, people listen and get it. Now, I have not been paying attention to the, let's see, good analogies, good. Just checking my messages, the chat here. Great. Yes, makes sense. Okay, images. Terrific. All right, so I'm going to stop my share there. Any questions or comments on this piece? Hey, Justin, welcome. Minal, great. Glad to have you join us.
Thank you. I love the feeding your mirror neuron idea. That's incredible. I had never thought about putting my mirror neurons on a very specific diet. We always talk about what you watch and how it becomes your thoughts, but just in the moment of a tense situation, having something for them to consume that's going to put them in the direction you want them to go. Wow. Brilliant. Thank you for that.
I love the idea of feeding them a specific diet. Wow. That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
All right, so let's talk about a little bit of the mechanics to start. Some people have brought up the microphone, the cameras, those kinds of things, the angles Gretchen mentioned. So let's talk about that. There's 3 things you need to consider with regard to your camera angle. Okay, where your camera is and how you're positioning it in order to get what I like to call the 6 o'clock news anchor power shot. And most people, when they put their cameras on, they kind of do this, right? So if I'm down here and I'm running a training program on leadership, how does it change your impression of me and your expectations of the value that I'm going to bring? Right. And a lot of people would normally say, well, it's not a big deal. I wouldn't have noticed it if you had started this way. And that's what most of this is. Everything I'm going to show you, you're going to sit there and go, you know what? I never noticed that before. You know what? I never thought about that before. None of it's rocket science. None of it is rocket science, but they're all ingredients. Like, okay, if you adjust the salt a little bit, if you adjust the sugar a little bit, if you adjust the eggs, or whatever it is by a little bit, suddenly your whole cake either falls or just tastes awful or just tastes that much better, or little bits and pieces that make a huge difference. So yeah, somebody get me an Apple box or whatever kind of box, Amazon box in the basement with the other 700 that are needing to be recycled at this point. But so here's where you go. Number 1, everybody hold up one hand. And Rosie, we're going to get you back on. I know you're in there someplace in your car on your phone. Good. Are you driving or are you stopped for the moment? You're sort of driving. Okay. So I'm going to address her in just a second. And you don't need to do this while you're driving, Rosie. Put your 2 hands on the wheel and turn off the video. You can watch it later, or watch you. We want you to be safe. We do not want anything. We don't want to see you on the 6 o'clock news tonight. Let's put it that way. So with your hand up, everybody do this. Make the itty bitty sign. Okay. Now put that on top of your head. And now adjust the camera so that your index finger touches the top of your screen. Okay, that's how close you should be to the top.
Wow.
Now, if you just adjusted it, you lean in, you make your adjustments, and it looks pretty good. And then you sit back and there's this kind of space. Do not do this. That's cheating. Not my first rodeo. Do not do that. So you want to make sure that you've adjusted it until you are about there. Now, here's another question. Where are you planning to post? Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, your website, etc. If you're going to, if you're planning on something like Instagram, it is primarily a vertical medium where people watch it and the videos are intended to be consumed like this. Most other places like YouTube or Facebook or things that are done more on or anything that you're going to embed on your website needs to be landscaped. Any sort of live engagement you're doing with people should be on landscape. So Rosie, the fact that you are on your phone, which is totally normal, if you do, anybody have to be on a phone or an iPad for that matter, do not hold your device vertical, because what you end up doing then is you end up being the strip, right, in the middle. And then you have two giant black bars on 2/3 of your screen, which just makes you seem that much more removed in this little keyhole, removed from your people. And you're only taking up 1/3 of the amount of space that you're supposed to take. When you're in person, you're supposed to take up your space. So you have this much space, take it up, flip your phone, have it be sideways. So Rose, you're going to flip your phone, make it landscape instead of portrait after you're done rotating. Please don't do it right now because clearly you're in motion. And
Oh, no.
I don't want you to. So but you want to have it be sideways and then you adjust. Now, if you are going to do it vertical because you're going to be in Instagram or something, then this still counts. It's even worse when it's this kind of column in the middle and you're still only have a head down at the bottom. Then 5/6 of your screen is blank. So you're disempowering yourself by making yourself smaller. Now, somebody else mentioned height or whatever else earlier, and I had to laugh because when I do my podcast, which is Speaking to Influence, there's, I interview leaders from all sorts of for-profit, nonprofit organizations. A little while ago, I interviewed Marcus Allen, who's the head of Big Brothers Big Sisters, and he was a former pro basketball player. I'm 5'1". Now, he had his camera like this, and I had mine like this. And I said, Marcus, I have to tell you, I love this interview because this is the only place in the world where I am taller than you by about 2 good inches. So I thank you for that. So, but people don't know how tall you are. And to the extent that size is power, look, 90-something% of all American presidents, and I think 95% of all CEOs in the world are 6 feet and up. Height does change the impression of power, leadership, authority, knowledge, et cetera. I'm 5'1". Nobody's afraid I'm going to take their lunch money. But here, this is the great equalizer. We are all the same size. And if anything, I look more powerful than most because they show up like Mr. Potato Head. Right. So you need the angle. Number one, get that straight.
I think that Jersey girl could totally take some people's lunch money.
I'm Italian. I don't touch anybody. I have people for that. I don't get my hands dirty. So all that to say. So number one is the angle, right? Number two is going to be the height. Remember, taking away the distractors that make it feel more artificial and more distanced. When most people are on a laptop, they open the laptop and then they have to tip it back. So it aims up. So the camera is like chin height at best, maybe chest height for some people. Well, if you're doing that, then you get this look, right? You have to like look down. It distorts your view because your head is the furthest thing away. So it looks kind of pointy at the top. You have an extra wide base and who needs that? Nobody, thank you very much. And then you end up getting the nostril shot. You end up coming down like this and it sort of distorts everything else. But nobody wants you to feel like, so I'm looking down on you. All right. And if you feel like you have to look down at the camera, that's not how you would be across the table. So what you want to do is get one of those Amazon boxes we talked about, or the old dictionaries or whatever's laying around gathering dust on your bookshelves, prop up your device so that the camera is equivalent with your forehead and ideally closer to the top than the bottom of your forehead, so that you're looking at someone head on, eye contact. If we were sitting across the table, this is what you would see, not this, right? So, and if you feel like, but I have a laptop, then I can't really type well up here. Okay, well then get yourself a peripheral keyboard. You can get a peripheral camera instead, but then frankly, that makes your camera that much farther away from your screen. So it's going to be harder to look and have that be natural. The keyboard, again, along with that Ethernet cable that's somewhere gathering dust in a box in your closet or in your basement, go dig that one out, or else just order another one. The peripheral keyboards are a lot cheaper than peripheral cameras and a lot easier and more universally applicable. So when in doubt.
There's mounts as well.
Yeah.
Like you have an iPad or a laptop, there's mounts for things like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Phone, iPad.
Exactly. And you want to make sure it's angled the right way. And then the other part is distance. So I like to have mine a little more than arm's distance away. My camera is probably about 2 feet from where I am right now. And in doing that, or if you can zoom out, a lot of places you can't zoom terribly well, but a lot of, not places, but a lot of different cameras won't allow you to. But I wanted it at a distance so that you're getting me from kind of mid torso on up. Because when you do that, you're being more generous in your communications with your audience because they can read more of your body language. Again, Jersey Italian, want me to stop talking, make me sit on my hands. But aside from that, it's still my body language is going to communicate with you how I feel about what I'm saying. It's reinforcing the tone and the energy, but also to an extent, the nature of the meaning, right? What I think and how I feel about what I'm saying. So you can tell, little motions that I do. If I'm listening to you and I'm back here, that's very different from if I'm, really focusing in or one of these. You are being more generous by communicating more fully with your people because they also are frustrated when they can't read the room. So good, let them read you. You have nothing to hide. And again, if you were across the table from them in a conference room or at Starbucks or wherever else, you wouldn't just see the giant head, right? That would be creepy. So you would be sitting across from them. And again, you'd be exactly right. You'd be mid-torso, more or less on up. So you got your coffee mug in hand, wherever it is. This is more like what you would see, especially if you're not in gallery view, if you're in speaker view or just one-on-one, and that person or you take up the full screen for them. This is more what they would experience with you live. Okay. Let's see. Any suggestions? Same video for Facebook as well as Instagram. If those are your primary platforms, there are editing videos you can, if you can have somebody just chop the video, make it in Facebook version or make it in landscape and then have them edit just to clip it vertical. If you can do that, lots of people post videos in the wrong orientation for a particular platform. I don't know that it makes that much of a difference, but where's your primary, right? What do you really need it? Where do you need it to work? Where are your people? Speak to your people. Build it for your people. I mean, I have an Instagram page. I have people who just, take my stuff and post it on Instagram for me. I'm an executive communication coach. They're not going to vet me on Instagram. I do it for just to get followers for my podcast or to buy my book or to do whatever else, but they're not going to be my main clients. So I'm not going to do extra work to create stuff in portrait mode orientation for whoever is there. Not that I don't love them. I just, you got to make your choices. So I stick with the widescreen version.
Manel's got her hand raised.
Yes, Manel, thank you.
I had a quick question. I like the analogy of those pictures and all of those that you're talking about. And thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with all of us. This is definitely a huge service to every one of us. So really appreciate you on that.
Me too.
I didn't get it exactly. Like you are looking for this distance from far or from
from wherever you are. Like once you decide, okay, I need to be this far away because this is too close and that's unnatural. So I'm going to change my distance. I'm going to change the height of it. Once you've adjusted the height and the distance, then ideally is when you would adjust the angle. Because you want to be this close to the top. You should have a lot more space between your chin and the bottom than between the top of your head and the top of the screen. And if you look at any portrait, any photograph that's taken by a professional, they'll never have most people will draw this imaginary line across the middle of their screen. And then they'll, the head or the entire body of the person they took the picture of will be in the bottom half. And then all the rest is ceiling and sky.
Okay.
Why? Good. Nobody needs that. Take up the whole screen, take up your space. The same as if you were in front of a room, you need to own your space live. You need to own your space virtually as well. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, you did. I just wanted some clarity on that. And the next question,
thank you.
I see that you're easily moving up your camera and down. What are you using as a stand? I'm just curious.
I'm actually using a clip camera on top of my monitor. So my monitor
that's
pivots.
What you're moving. Okay. I was like, she's doing very easily and smoothly in this meeting. So what is she using?
It's no different from if you had a laptop just to, adjust the monitor angle.
Okay. So, I got it. Thank you.
Sure. Other questions so far?
Do you have, should we be looking at ourselves on Zoom or when we're recording video or should we get that direct feedback or what are your thoughts on that?
I like to have my video where I can see it So I can just make sure that I haven't like slid too far to one side or the other, or to watch and make sure that my energy is what I think it is. But you don't want to have it like if you're doing a what's the right word? Well, either an event where you can only see yourself and everybody else is just the list of names. Then if that's the case, then I'm going to drag my own video right underneath my camera because it's the only person who's going to be talking back to me. It's a face to make eye contact with. And to have, I usually, if I can get the strip of faces, like with Zoom that you can do, if you're doing a screen share or something, I will take that strip of faces, I will loop around until I find someone who seems pretty engaged, and I will put that person's face right underneath my camera. Because I want to talk to that person and I want to feed off of them, but have it look like, so right now, Caleb's face is right at the top, is next to my face on my Zoom strip. So Caleb, your head is right underneath my camera. So I'm staring at you, but you feel like I'm staring at you, and everybody else feels like I'm staring at them. But you're my target right now. You're my muse because you're at the top of the squares. Now, this is also something that is platform dependent, because if you're using Teams, for example, and a lot of my clients are on Teams, they put all the faces down at the bottom, which is stupid, and then you can't do it. So, or it's a bunch of dots down the bottom. You can't even see their faces. And all you do see is maybe at best 9 faces, so you have to do your best to remember to look at whoever's nearest the camera when you can, and otherwise just keep scanning everybody else to keep tabs. But most of the time, especially when you're talking, talk to whoever's closest to the camera and or the person who asked you the question, wherever they happen to be. And if worst comes to worst, then what I would do is, especially if I need to look at other screens behind me, I need to look at my documents, I need to look at my spreadsheets or something. Hey, Rodrigo, welcome. Then yes, you can pin the videos if you want, but otherwise I will just reduce my Zoom window completely, like grab the bottom edge of the frame and drag it up so that my whole Zoom becomes only a strip. So I'll only get a few of your faces, but at least then I can move the whole Zoom window up there. And you can do the same thing with Teams or the other platforms. You just make sure that they're not on full screen mode. You drag them up and you see what you can see, but you push them right under your camera so you can see as many of them. And make them feel like they're connecting with you. So
that feedback is so incredible, because like I know now why Tony does like the thousands of faces around him, because like if I'm just talking, like I can just focus on you and talk to you, and then it's like I feel other people tuning out. Right. Versus if I actually get enough perspective to see everyone's faces, everyone's body language, everyone's reaction, then I'm not just speaking to you anymore. I'm speaking to the whole group, and everybody can receive. Right. So it's the kind of feedback you're getting, where you're focusing, and how, like, what's available. It's so powerful, so critical.
Yeah. You want to connect with those people. Patience. What's up?
Thank you. First, it's a fire hose. I'm writing as fast as I can. This is great. Second of all, you rock. This is just, you really take command. And I love that. I can feel that spirit, and I learn from that.
Thank you.
So my question is, you just said you grabbed the bottom of Zoom and moved it up, and I practiced that as you were talking. Is that where you're having your windows, or your PowerPoint is right below? Because I have a screen over here. I usually have it, but I do notice my eyes will shift there, and I probably will be losing people now that you mentioned that.
I only use one screen. I'm not a 2-screen gal, but I will, if you're going to share a screen, that's different, because then your screen share takes up your Zoom or your Teams window, and then the few faces that you can see are just going to be a little strip. And on Zoom you can move them, other platforms you can't. So there's a little bit of you have to advance the slides in the platform at that point. It's all kind of shared. So it really is platform dependent to an extent, but occasionally you'll have to toggle, because let me just check this file over here where you're not going to share that screen per se with everybody else. It's just for your own reference. And that's okay. I do find that being a little bit more metacognitive with the audience, meaning like talking through my thought processes and telling people, like narrating my actions, helps people to know what I'm doing. So if they ask a question and I need to check, it's like, okay, give me a second here. Let me just pull up my document. I'm going to find that answer for you right now. I just want to look here. Okay, 2, 3, 4. Okay, found it. So then at least like you're doing what's called holding the floor. right? You're not having people talk over you. You're letting them know, okay, I'm not checking my Facebook updates or my text messages or my email. I'm looking for your information. So when you see me looking everywhere but at you, then you know I'm looking for something. It's like, even if I'm taking notes, my notepad's over here. I may tell people in the beginning, by the way, if you see me looking down here, over there, that's because that's where my notebook is. So I'm just taking notes as we go. So don't be distracted. So, but you fill them in, right? So it's better to have more information than less, so that they know how to interpret that pose, as opposed to, well, is she checking her phone again?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
Is
got
she
it.
really paying
Perfect.
attention to me? So talk people through what you're doing. That answer your questions?
Yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So angle, distance, and height of the camera, setting up the height and the distance before you finally adjust the angle. Let's talk about sound for a minute. Cloud brought up having the externals. Yeti's a great brand. There's a lot of good brands out there between, let's see, Yeti, Plantronics is a good one. Bose is better for speakers. Their mics are not all that well known. You can do, oh gosh, I'm blanking now. I'll come up with a bunch more in a minute. But this is a Shure. These are performance mics. They start out a lot more expensive to beginning. Shure is SHURE. I personally don't care whether you have a standalone mic or a headset mic, but you need something other than what comes with your computer. One thought that came to me earlier as far as screens are concerned, real estate matters, regardless of your industry. I have a 20-something inch screen, which is part of why I only need one, because I can open up a lot and I can, if I'm running a Zoom, I can see your faces. I can see the chat box. I can see the participants window. I can pull up polls. I can see my own documentation. I can see everything all in one place. If you're trying to run it on a 11 or 13 inch screen, it all is going to overlap. You can't see stuff. You need more space. I like to multitask when I want to be able to pat my head, rub my belly, walk and chew gum, and do underwater BB stacking all at the same time. When I'm running webinars that have become rote for me, I want it to just go smooth. I don't need somebody else to manage the slide advancement or somebody else to launch the polls and somebody else. Look, if this is a new training you're doing, by all means, deputize someone to be your co-host and to launch all the mechanicals, to set up all the behind the scenes, to do the troubleshooting, to monitor the chat, to be the only one who's allowed to say to you, hey, Laura, by the way, I noticed that Cloud's got a question in the chat. Did you want to address that one now, or would you like to hold on to it later? Then I don't have to, if you're not good at thinking about all the stuff you want to say and reading through the chat as it scrolls live and doing all that, if it's too much to juggle, be an owner, not an operator, and delegate. Find your deputy and delegate. Practice that coordination with that person ahead of time, because you want that transition to be smooth. They should just know, look, you're on slide 26. Slide 27 is the poll. When you get to slide 27 and you say, all right, let's take a look at that poll, it should pop up because your deputy took their cue. You shouldn't have to say, Cloud, okay, Cloud, you want to launch that? Okay, and then you hear Cloud coming in going, yeah, Laura, let me find that for you. Like, I could do that for myself and fumble through it. I don't need you to fumble through it for me. You want to make sure that you have practiced those transitions. Of course, Cloud would never do that. She would have everything under control, no questions asked. So we want to make sure that that deputizing is fine. You don't have to be a one-man band. But either way, it needs to run smooth. But having a larger screen really, really helps with that. Or if, having two, but then you end up looking over here for one. And to me, that's more distracting. And most people are like, but my camera's over here, but my screen is over there. I'm like, then move your freaking camera. But that's my very low tech way of fixing things. Sound. We were talking about microphones. Understand this, all right? So you've been listening to me for the last hour or so. I'm going to shift. And where is it? I want you to tell me I want you to be aware of your cognitive, your mental focus, your emotional response, and your physiological reaction when I shift. And if I were to run the rest of the program from here, what changes? You hear a difference. Okay, so this is what an awful lot of people do. And this microphone is probably a B minus, comparatively speaking. So all I did was hit a button. Now, right, so all of your faces speak volumes. Okay, this is what most people do. The thing is, most people
they use this sound quality because everybody else does. So we have accepted a universal expectation of a standard of mediocrity. How many of you got to where you are, plan to get into total financial freedom by being completely and utterly mediocre? I don't believe that was one of the 7 factors, right? Except in the unchallenged campaign of mediocrity. It's not part of the lessons. So this is pretty crummy. And again, since everybody sort of sounds the same, then we don't know that you can do better. Your ears kind of adjust. Now, how many of you have heard of something called Zoom fatigue? Right. Most people are familiar with the phrase, most people associate it with just being sick of being on video all the time, right? You feel like your chair has gotten a butt-shaped divot in it because you never move. You get stiff because you never stand up after sitting in the chair for 8 to 10 hours a day or longer. You're sick of seeing people on video. You're sick of seeing yourself on video. But there's more, and it's the sound that makes the biggest difference as far as I'm concerned. Because when you're listening to this kind of foggy tin can sound, you're kind of squinting, your brain, your ears are squinting to lean in, because you have to concentrate harder to understand what the words are, much less what they mean and what their value is. So when you have to sustain that heightened level of concentration for 4, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, depending on how often you're on video, and you're listening to people who sound like this or worse, probably a lot worse, depending on who you're talking to, that is not only mentally tiring, it is physiologically exhausting. So that's more where the actual fatigue in Zoom fatigue comes from. It's not just being sick of it. It is a literal cognitive and physiological fatigue. So change, and plus, when you're listening to people who sound like this and they really sound like they're in a tin can and you're having a hard time hearing them, you assume, those mirror neurons again, assume that they're having a hard time hearing you. So you yell louder and you talk louder to them because you can't hear them. So then you're sitting there pushing from your throat and you're straining your own vocal cords. And you're going, well, this is stupid. Let me get this straight. I feel deaf, so I'm talking louder. What sense does this make at all?
Luke Wren, one of Tony Robbins' main speakers on stage, he teaches life and wealth mastery out in Fiji. He specifically had that problem his first time in that arena in Florida. And he literally blew out his voice like the whole weekend when he was there, when he did life mastery earlier this year. And like, then someone at the end of the weekend told him, oh no, actually Tony also had that same thing to his first seminar. And he's like, why didn't you tell me? Like, it's because there's zero auditory feedback. And he's like, bah, like blasting, and like, doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's part of why everybody talks louder on cell phones. You ever notice people talk louder on cell phones than they used to talk on the regular phones if you were old enough to have a regular landline of some sort? Because the old receivers had the feedback. You'd speak and you would hear your own voice in your own ear. Now you have the earbuds, which are basically like putting your fingers in your ears. They're literally blocking your own sounds from coming into your ears. So you don't hear yourself, so you talk louder. Same thing, whether you've got a little Bluetooth piece or you are just holding it to your own ear, there's still no input loop. So you're not hearing your own voice amplified digitally in your own ear. So you naturally talk louder. Now watch this. I'm going to shift back to my other microphone, and I want you, again, be aware of your emotional, your cognitive, and your physiological reaction when I do this.
We're going to run the rest of the show from here today. Do you feel a difference? If I could zoom in on your eyes, did your pupils just dilate? Did you feel your brain just like laser focus, target, bullseye right in to the sound of my voice? If you were listening to the other voices talking on the phone or talking on the meeting and you're kind of multitasking, going wah, 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 and then you hear this voice cut through. So you've gone from listening to this to suddenly listening to this. It's like, oh, wait, who's talking now? I need to hear what they're saying. They sound important. They sound smarter. They sound more valuable than everybody else. I mean, if your ears could exhale, didn't your ears just go, ah? Your body actually relaxed because I just relieved you of a cognitive burden, changing the burden placed on the audience to capture and process. Gretchen said her kids actually gasped. It's awesome. Yeah, it changed. It changes, doesn't it? So again, you don't need to have the degree of setup that I have. I don't care whether you get a headset with a boom mic or whether you get a standalone. There are pros and cons to each, and we can discuss some of them if you want, but you need to amplify somehow. And honestly, I think if you get something in the, $80 to $150 range, that's probably solid. $100, $150 could be a good mic. You don't need to go the 500 to 1,000 or above. Less than that, there are some that are decent. I can give you a couple of suggestions, but a few, and yes, anybody who it needs to bounce, go ahead and bounce. I know a few people have meetings at the top of the hour, et cetera. We are recording this.
Which microphone is this, Laura, that you're using?
The one that I'm using is a Shure, SHURE SM7B. And this retails for about $500, but understand that you need another basically $500 worth of stuff to go along with it to make it work. So one thing that you have to look for is what's the plug, right? What's the Gazinta? And what do you need? This microphone is intended for performance. So it is not, it has an XLR plug to it, which means it plugs into an amp. It's a big fat three-pronged wire. And so you need to buy an interface that will plug. It doesn't even come with a wire. Like I said, you got to buy the wire in the first place, buy the interface to then plug the wire into, then that interface plugs into your computer. But again, it wasn't working by itself. It was too quiet. No one could hear me even at full gain. So we had to buy a cloud lifter. So the interface is $175. The wire was $40. The cloud lifter was $150. It adds up. And by the way, it doesn't come with a stand or anything. So I had to buy an arm, right? I can buy a stand for it. So that's another one you have to consider. This one's floor stand, so I can move it anywhere. A lot of them come with a little clamp that you can just clamp onto the lip of your desk, which I did at first, only to realize afterward, my desk doesn't have a lip. Would have been good to look at first. Little detail. So, you get the arm and a little hinge and you can move that around. That's fine. Nowadays, I think people are so used to seeing microphones, whether it's on a headset or whether it's the actual piece of equipment here in front. Nobody cares if they see it. Like, you don't have to worry about hiding it. If you've got one that hangs from the front, again, doesn't matter. I don't love them when they hang from the top because I feel like they look so big to everybody else. That's a little bit more of a distraction. If you're going to, so two things about positioning the microphone, whether it's a standalone or whether it's a headset, optimum placement matters. So if you're going to do a standalone mic, if you take your hand and you do this, if you do this with your hand, that is the optimum distance between your mic and your mouth. So my pinky is touching my microphone, my thumb is touching my chin. That's optimum distance. So when most people get a standalone mic like this one, it comes on a little tripod, typically, like the basic models out there. And then they are like, well, if I'm using a laptop, that's not really convenient to put it right in front of me. So I'm going to put it over here next to my screen. Then it's about 18 inches away. This is not 18 inches, unless anybody was unsure. So now look, if I take this microphone, again, this is a $500 mic, almost $1,000 worth of total equipment to make it work. And I move my microphone to be 18 inches away, so it's closer to my computer screen. It changes the sound, doesn't it? It's not working as well. It's not picking me up the way it should. Even things like knowing, is this a microphone? Some mics are meant to be held like when you see them on American Idol, or the singing competition, so that you're singing right into the head. Others that stand, like some of the Yetis, you're supposed to talk into the side of it. You'll see like a little dot, a little light on the side. So it's supposed to stand here. You do not talk into the head. My old one, it was a Audio Technica AT2020. That's another good one. Audio Technica has great mics. The one that I had was one of those where it would stand here, but I had to talk into the side of it, not talk into the head. This microphone, again, $500. If I rotate it 90 degrees and I talk into the side of it, like the old one, you should be able to hear a difference, right? It muffles it a little bit. It's not clear. So, and that's because I've rotated it 90 degrees and it's facing up instead of when I face it this way and I rotate it to face towards me. So you've got a great Yeti there, Cloud. So hopefully you'll find the buttons to plug that one in. Brian?
And these pieces are all like stop giving your audience a hard time by like getting in the way of their listening visually, auditorily. Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you were in person, would you sound like this? I certainly hope not. If you do, we have a bit
of Charlie Brown.
Yes. I use that analogy a lot, frankly. Great. But it doesn't sell. Right, other than as a joke of a reference to make, not what you want to be known as. That's probably not the brand you're looking for, right? So, and same thing, if you're going to use the headset with the mic, with the boom mic, that is, you want to test it out with somebody and figure out where you need to position the arm so that you're not doing two things. Number one, avoid the aspiration of every time you when you say those aspirated consonants, you don't want to pop your P's and have make it sound like you're spitting or blowing people's eardrums out from those. So you want to make sure it's just out of the way, but you also want to make sure that they don't hear every exhale. Because either you're auditioning for Darth Vader's replacement or a 900 number call, and neither one of them is probably what Tony Robbins is trying to work with you on advancing your career through. So if those are not the images that you're trying to establish for yourself, your reputation, then make sure that you've moved that headset microphone into a good angle where it does pick up your voice, but not what you don't want it to. And even then, play with it a little bit as far as proximity is concerned, because depending on how you use it, some of the more sensitive mics, you can get a different impression out of. I mean, if I really wanted to go for the late night easy listening radio DJ voice, I would hold it a little bit closer, and then Delilah, here I come. Watch out, you've got competition. So you have to know, and there's use to that. I mean, if you're really looking for the richest sound, I'm going to hold it. This is about 2 inches, 1.5 to 2 inches from me. It is a different piece. Now, I don't want to yell at people when I'm doing it, but you're going to get a different feeling. So who's my audience? What am I trying to convey? How do I need them to feel? How do I want them to connect with me? That's going to change the way that I use my mic. Okay. So again, Amy, that you've got to jump. So anybody who's got feedback afterward, by all means, please reach out any way that you can. Would love to hear from you. And I will actually be asking anybody who can stick around for a little while at the end for a little bit of specific feedback, especially in particular. This is the fundamentals of an online course that I've created called Virtual Influence. And you can check it out at virtualinfluence.today. But what I'm really looking for is affiliate partners to help promote it, because it's something where, like somebody said earlier, this is like fire hose to get all this now. It's normally a live 3-hour half day intensive, all this and more. And then people are like, I don't know how to remember all of it. So we've got the DIY self-paced, a whole bunch of mini videos, one topic per video, 5 minutes a piece, 10 minutes a piece, worksheets, all that, and transformation before and after, so that you can see where you started and where you've ended to get that virtual brand in place. And if you know of anybody who is either doing sales, I'm looking for sales people to go out and do some commission work. I'm looking for affiliate marketers to help me do these kinds of webinars, but for their people, et cetera, and we'd be happy to work at anything. But I would appreciate any referrals that you guys have or any ideas about how to get this kind of program out on the individual level. So, okay. And yes, thank you, Michael, for putting up yes, Rode is a great one. The Rode mics, I find typically are more for, and I haven't used them as much, but more like lapel mics with battery packs. If you're going to be standing over on the other side of the room and it needs to connect through a battery packed remote control, something or other from a camera, it's a little, those are terrific. I have one. So when I'm outside doing video on site and somebody else is holding a camera for me, then I'll use the Rode. And yes, the Cloud Lifter mic, awesome. Yes, he put up all sorts of great links. And yes, that's the interface that I use, the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. Do know that sometimes if you have a Mac, not everything plays 100% nicely with Mac. I had a different interface model, and it before I bought the Focusrite Scarlett, and I just couldn't get it to talk. So I don't know what the issue was, had to return it. Scarlett works great. Everything seems to play nice with PC. 95% plays nice with Mac. I don't know why that's still a thing. So, all right, let's see. So any questions on the microphones? Your sound is mission critical. I don't care if you do anything else, please upgrade your mic. That's really important.
I was just commenting in the chat of how you turned a training on killing it in video into also the value add of how to kill it on audio.
Oh yeah.
Because you're amazing.
Video, I mean, audio is part of video. You don't want to watch the video if you can't hear what they're saying. It's kind of defeats the purpose, right? So thank you for that, Brian. And with the video that goes along with that, I want to talk about lighting for a second, because right now I know that it looks like I just walked in and flicked on my light and, we're doing this here, but I will show you what it does look like if I were only to walk in and turn on the light switch, and I'll reverse it. I'm not, I'm going to do the full reveal. So let me turn off my video for 1 second, turn off a few things. I have to reach over my camera to turn out one of the lights. And I do, by the way, have two windows, one next to me, one in front of me, that do not get direct sunlight. But if I were to just walk in the room and turn on my light, then let's see this. Yeah, basically that's what you would see. So that doesn't work. This says witness protection program. This does not say, trust me with your finances, your career, your company, your children, your health, whatever it is. Okay, so that's the overhead light, which I can see myself and everything in the room just fine. But this would be a fail, all things considered. So, all right, I got a desk lamp first. Let's go turn the desk lamp on. Okay, we have now officially gone from failure to a D. Well, I'll be generous. We'll call it a D plus. A D plus, of course, is the most insulting grade ever because it's still a D. You just put a bow on it. It's like putting lipstick on a pig. Why bother? That does not help. So then, all right, I got a ring light. Everybody talks about ring lights, right? A ring light is literally a ring of LED lights, a couple hundred of them around, has a dimmer switch and a couple of other settings you can play with. They come in sizes from like 6 or 8 inches out to 20 something inches. I think mine is a 16 inch. So I'm going to reach over. That's right above my camera right now. If you have to reach above your camera, whether it's to close a window shade, turn on the light, whatever it is, turn your camera off. Nobody wants the armpit shot. That is not branding, not good branding, at least. Nobody wants the armpit shot or the cleavage shot, again, unless you're selling something else. And that's not where we're going today. So to stop my video, turn on my ring light. All right. And if I turn the ring light on, okay, so now you can see my face clearly. But it's a little dingy. You know, to me, this isn't warm. It's clear, but it's not welcoming. It's not inviting. It still feels like I'm kind of sitting in a cave, just again, under like the interrogation lamp. I don't know, doesn't work. So what I got instead, not instead, but in addition, are what are called softbox lights. And softbox lights are used by photographers. They look like umbrellas that have been opened on their side, and the bulb is in the middle. And some of them have either foil around the inside, or otherwise they'll have a little very thin, almost handkerchief-like scrim or screen down the front to kind of muffle the lighting just a little so it's not so stark. And I have 2 of those, one on either side, but they're not aiming at me. They're aiming at the wall behind me because I just want them to have more balance in the light of the room. Now watch what happens when I turn those on. Here's 1. Here's 2. And voila, it just looks like I walked in and turned on the light. Wow. Do you understand where I'm going with all these things where it's about the distraction, right? Everything else, if you didn't know, you wouldn't think about it. But as you start to see the transformation, the progression with each of these details, it's like, oh yeah, that feels better. Oh yeah, that did feel awkward. I didn't think about it. But that retroactively, your brain reprocesses, recalibrates, rejudges everything else. Because it's all those stuff that subconsciously your brain kind of recognized, but you could never put your finger on it. We're putting your finger on everything. And we're fixing it because these are all variables that are easily controllable. We just don't think to do it. So we leave money, power, and influence on the table, which is kind of silly when all you have to do is literally flick a light switch or after you buy them. But all these details, each one is small, but very much it's the constellation. Right? All the details and how they influence each other, how they work together to create that complete thing, that complete image that you're looking for. Let's see, a couple of questions came in about makeup. Okay, so here's the easy thing about makeup, or the easy initial answer. Get your lighting straight first. Then you'll decide what makeup you do or don't need, because makeup looks different in different lighting and with different camera settings. And I have realized that so number one, despite how expensive this stupid computer was, the camera sucks. I hope someone from Apple is listening. The camera sucks. I'm not using my Apple camera. I will show you what my Apple camera looks like. And let's see if I can shift this. I'm using a Logitech HD. If I used my built-in camera, okay, it looks like this. And I'm going to shift that over a little bit. It's fuzzier, but it's not only fuzzier, but it is, and I'm not totally using it correctly, but this is much better. You can't control any of the lighting. You can't control the color balance. As a friend of mine ever so lovingly put it, when I first got my this computer and we started FaceTiming or whatever it was, he said, "You look like Morticia Adams." Now, in case anybody's not sure who that is, trust me, it's not a compliment. I was grayed out, and the only color that was actually visible was anything that was a hint of pink looked like this screaming fuchsia. So imagine a black and white photo with screaming pink lipstick. It was just like, oh God, that's awful. I actually took it back to the Apple store because I thought it was defective. And we put it on the counter next to 2 other floor models. And they're like, yeah, nope, that's the default setting. I'm like, are you kidding me? I just paid how many thousands of dollars for this? And you paid some idiot to come up with this default camera setting? You think that's a good thing? So, $3,000 or $4,000 later, I had to go to the App Store and buy an $8 app called Webcam Settings, which you then plug in, and that allows you to adjust your hue, your tint, your brightness, your saturation, your, contrast, whatever else, override the computer factory default settings. And then, I don't know, just look not dead. Wow. Thank you. I'm so glad I needed $8 to make me look not dead after buying a multi-$1,000 computer. No, I'm not mad or bitter. Not at all. Thank you very much. So, I've said, and of course now I can use that for any camera that I'm using. And I do have to adjust from even like right now, these are technically the settings for the other camera. I can shift that. I'm on the face. Let's see if I go to the FaceTime HD camera settings.
Can you share those settings?
I probably can't, frankly. You just have to sit there and keep tweaking until it works for whatever device you're on. So let's see, that a little different, not so much. But anyway, I'm going to go back to my other camera, which is clear. So again, this one works. It's just a little blurry. Now, of course, on Zoom, you can do things like go into the video settings and click touch up my appearance, which basically is anti-HD. It just blurs you out, but it makes you look like you've had a facelift because you can't see any of the wrinkles or your age spots. So, you take your pick. Do you want clear or do you want to look basically younger? So whatever, I earned my grays. I'm going to go back here, HD Pro, Logitech. Now I'm going to go back to my lighting settings. You're making me go through all these hoops now. Okay. And now we're back, right? So, but this is all lighting settings that you just watched me click my way through. So you do have to play with those kinds of things, and all that to your question and patience as far as makeup is concerned, until you get the lighting set up, who knows? And even with this, when I look in the mirror, this lipstick is not this bright. It's actually a much more muted, softer pink. But something about the lighting, about the camera settings, it looks a lot brighter than it is. I absolutely cannot wear some of the makeup, much less the jewelry, that if I were on stage or in a conference room, I would wear a lot like blingier pieces, just because, in a larger room, it's just a little bit of light, a little reflection, a little whatever. Here, with all the lights that you now know I have, anything that's got rhinestones in it or Swarovski or gems of any sort, it's like having a disco ball around your neck. It's beyond distracting. Can't do it. So get your lighting straight, get all that set up, adjust your settings, and then test lipsticks. I mean, there are lipsticks that I have that are very brown that I actually bought and then never wore because they actually don't work well with my skin tone, that I do use here because they look different.
So question, also, I have your attention. Background.
Yep.
I've noticed your background's real slick and crisp.
It's a banner.
Can you just for a second?
And I can give you my vendor, but I use because my thought when I first bought this was that I can take it up, take it down. I can take it to events when I'm doing an author book signing, or when I'm doing a registration table, or step and repeat for photos. I just never taken it down because as soon as I bought it, COVID hit and I never left. So, but I like this. Don't bother with a green screen. Green screens are a waste of time. If you're going to bother doing something physical, just do something that doesn't require digital on top of it. There's a bunch of reasons I won't bother going into now. Green screens take up all the space and all the expense of physical, and then still look crappy like you're superimposing something anyway. So I don't generally recommend it. Occasionally they work well, but they take too much bandwidth, and yeah, it's a headache. So I would not bother with the green screen.
It can be laggy in certain connections as well, right? Like with the green screen, the computer filling it in, and people have got slow video. Yeah.
I'm not a fan. When you go back to the digital things, like, all right, because of the nature of the event we're on, okay, Rodrigo's got his sort of space time capsule thing going on, which is always a fun background. He's here. It's a Plat family. We're all just chatting. But for me in this role to use that background, that's incongruent with the brand that I'm trying to establish, right? Nobody believes I'm up there, right? I have virtual backgrounds that I have used kind of frankly, just to prove a point. But if I use the virtual background, let's take this one, for example. Okay, there's my virtual background. If I use my virtual background, first of all, I look like a 1990s video game character.
Okay.
Right. It's not clean. It's not crisp. It's not, it doesn't look professional. Right. Exactly. It's like Super Mario Brothers. Here we come. But here's the thing. If I said to you, don't think about pink elephants, what are you thinking about?
Exactly.
Okay. So what does a virtual background say? Don't think about what's behind me.
What's behind me? Wow.
Don't think about what's behind me. So
Laura,
now all you're doing is wondering, like, gee, what's behind her now? That's she has to fake it, and poorly, and she's willing to do that. Why?
Floating in cyberspace.
Yeah.
So my question with your background that you do have, I love it, and it's crisp and clean. Do you sometimes use it as like do you put how they can get a hold of you? Like, I see your vocal impact. I can see that. But do you put like .com, or you put any of your contact information where an audience like this is seeing your contact information, almost like a business card? Do you do that, or is it too distracting?
I don't usually. If I'm going to put information someplace to share, I'll either have it on a slide that I'm going to share later, or I'll put it in the chat, or I'll have somebody else share it for me. We'll make sure. I'm not going to not let an audience know how to get in touch with me. That's not a concern, but I will. Let's see. There was a question I saw as far as the app. The app is just called webcam settings. That's for Mac. I don't know what the Android PC version is, but if you go to whatever your Google Play Store or App Store or something, just see, webcam. Just type in the words webcam settings because it's a descriptor. It happens to be the name of this app, but then you just plug it in and you got to play with it because I don't know what device you're using and how it's going to set, right? So would like to think in the last 2 years since I bought this computer, they have upgraded their cameras, but I don't know. So just play. There's only like 4 sliders. You're just going to keep playing with them until it doesn't suck, to be technical about it. Till you're happy with it. But so sorry, we just tangented off of that. What was your last? Oh, the background. So here's an easy hack for the background. If you need something physical, go to Amazon and buy a room divider. Those like fan fold 4 to 6 panel shoji screen rattan, or translucent paper on metal frame kind of a thing. They run anywhere from $50 to a couple of $100, depending on how ornate you want it to be, how many panels you want it to be. They're room dividers, right? But they're lightweight. They're physical. The fact that they're fan fold gives you dimension. So it's not just like a giant flat white wall behind you. You don't need photos or curtains or whatever else it is. You can buy, they come in all different materials and colors. And when you're done, they don't take up that much space. And when you're done, you just fold it back up again and stick it in the corner, slide it under the bed or under the couch, shove it in the closet. It's sort of instant pop up, instant fold down, and you're done. It's not as like this is a little more obtrusive. I can't really take it down easily I just can't take it down that easily. It's not hard, but it's not, yeah, you get it. There you go, Mac $799. So that's my easiest solution. The other thing that's an easy hack for a background is if you get a rolling garment rack, $29.99 at Target, whatever it is, stand it up so it's higher than you are, and then get a curtain, 1 panel, like a 4-foot high curtain with the grommets or the circles, that just thread through through a curtain rod. Just hang it behind you like it's a closed window. Just get a whatever color. You don't want like a big red curtain. It looks like you're in a theater waiting for curtain to raise. But something that's a simple color. Lighter is better than darker. Something that goes well with your skin tone. I'm a winter. I cannot do anything yellow. Yellow, green, orange, very bad for me. So I wouldn't want a green, even like a soft, sagey kind of green, something behind me, or a vanilla-y kind of gold yellow. It doesn't work for me. So, find a color, a soft blue, a soft, whatever it is. I mean, you could even get a shower curtain if it's got the right kind of little texture to it. I wouldn't do like the plastic ones with the ducky decals on it or something. But then again, I don't know your brand. Whatever floats your boat. But again, it's an easy, inexpensive, lightweight, movable piece. You just, wherever your chair is, you make sure that the rack is at least a foot or so higher than your head, should be at least as wide as your camera is going to be able to see, and then just put the curtain on it, extend it. It gives you a little depth, the ripples in the curtain. You can play with it. Go to Target, Kmart, whatever it is. You don't need to spend a lot of money on this or time. So just a couple of easy background hacks that are 3-dimensional and that are physical. They don't look artificial. I mean, do you really want anybody to associate anything with the word artificial with your brand? To me, that is a little incongruent there. So, all right. Any other questions on what we've talked about? Because mostly we've talked about stuff on just how to get us ready to hit join.
What do you think about sitting versus standing in video and on Zoom?
A couple of things. So you have to weigh pros and cons. If you know that your energy tends to siphon out of you when you're sitting, you need to stand up to kind of get the energy going, then there's nothing wrong with standing, unless you're going to be a fidgeter. Because most people, when they're standing, you end up turning into a human metronome.
Right.
Right. And then you're just sort of shifting your weight back and forth. I don't know, women will tend to do like a hip cock kind of a thing, shifting weight from one foot to the other and bending the other knee. Guys have this weird thing where like they rock back and forth, heel to toe. I don't know why that's a guy thing, but they will do it. I'm like, if making your audience seasick is what you're really aiming for, knock yourself out. But exactly. But if that's kind of like, if your pre-webinar email does not include the words bring Dramamine, then let's not go that direction.
Yeah. I'm so used to speaking standing up, and like I had like friends years ago when I went to share something really potent, I was sitting down and like they caught that in this mastermind circle and they're like, stand the fuck up. Like, I was just like, all right. And it's just like to be more present with everybody.
Yep.
And just like more, I have to be 10x more present with myself to be present with everybody else in the room. Yeah. You got to be mindful to your own body and what you're doing. If you find that you're doing the box step while you're standing there, just because you can't stand still, then that's not doing you that's not helping you, right? It's just exchanging one problem for another. So then you're creating your own distraction. Pivoting around our axis.
Right, exactly. So other questions, comments? Yeah, Caleb.
I just had this experience that I had a phone call come in and a little thing came in and I looked at it when I got distracted. What is the quick button on a Mac, like you use, I'm using the same, to shut down the system and just do this?
I don't know that there's a shut down the system button. I know that
notifications thing.
Yeah. I mean, you could certainly turn off Chrome, which I don't know that anybody in humankind in the last 10 years has ever actually done, but somewhere in the settings of Chrome, there is a notifications button. I don't recall off the top of my head what the rabbit trail is, to try to find it, but
I'm using a Mac. I have to do it in Chrome?
I believe so, because are the notifications Chrome notifications? Are they calendar notifications? Are they iCal notifications? Who's
phone call?
Okay, so phone call is a different ballgame. You have an iPhone and your computer answers your phone. Is that what's happening? So then you go to your settings in your phone and go to do not disturb mode.
Got it.
Yeah, that's the only way I've figured it out. Airplane mode sometimes also can work, but otherwise you have to go to do not disturb mode, and then any notification that should come through your phone will not reroute to your computer. But just putting your phone on silent doesn't matter. And it's stupid anyway to put our phones on silent when the microphone is on mute anyway. So it's not like anybody else can hear it. Like, who are we kidding? So we're still going to hear the vibration and be distracted by it ourselves. So do not disturb mode prevents us from being aware of any notifications that come in, and then we're not distracting ourselves.
Yeah. As Brian said.
Caleb, there's also, there are programmable panels, like little touch sensitive buttons. Yeah, Rodrigo's thinking this too. There's little that can actually, you can have presets for your whole computer that can do all this stuff for you. And you literally be like filming mode, one button. It changes your lights, it changes your settings, it changes the software.
And Rodrigo, can you put that in
my former mentors does
in the
that.
box?
Yeah. And it's a little light panel with like logos and LCDs that you can actually read and be like, this is my this mode, this is my this mode, whatever you want to do. And it's just like button. Like one of my last coaches like had this down like so flat. It was just awesome. It was like boom, switch.
Brilliant.
Terrific. So yeah, if you know what that button is and you can find the Amazon link or something or wherever it's being sold and share that, that's terrific.
Yeah.
Other questions? I mean, there's lots of other stuff I can talk about, but I really want it to just be like, all right, well, but what about this? And what about? And we can always do a part 2. Oh,
and
you know what?
If you don't have questions, which questions do you have?
Yes, good point. I'm going to show you a hack for anybody who is concerned about makeup. Any guys who are especially who are like, I don't know that I'm genetically able to buy something out of the cosmetics department in Amazon. I feel weird. I can't do it. So this is my non-makeup hack. So, with all these lights and it's summer, whatever else, it gets a little warm, gets a little schwitzy. So here's my non-makeup makeup. Smashbox is the brand, and it's the primer stick called Mattify. And this is actually supposed to go under foundation or under powder, which I don't wear. But what I like about this is that, and honestly, for as often as I refer this, I should get commission. And I really am mad that I don't, because I would have been able to put my kid through college by now. It's kind of like those sunscreen sticks, like they sent us for the Costa Rica trip, right? The little sunbum face stick, same idea. But what I like about this is, unlike the sunbum stick, it doesn't smell like anything, like nothing. I don't even mean it just smells like clean soapy. No, nothing. And so when it goes on, it also looks like absolutely nothing, 100%. And it's not greasy. Like sunscreen sticks get really greasy when they're on. This feels like nothing. So if, I'm a little shiny now, but under all these lights that you now know I have, but if I just kind of put this on, like the shine just goes away, right? So that's something where, okay, a little over here, under the eyes, get a little shiny, etc. So then I don't have to look like I'm sweating through my stuff. And if you do use pressed powder, loose powder, a little dusting of powder over the top of it helps it last that much longer. And then it just, again, a little bit of powder can just keep you from looking shiny. And it's not so much about the vanity thing, but like, do you look nervous? So you look like you're sweating. You're going to sweat buckets. It's not going to protect you like that, but it's helpful. I had one guy on the last webinar say something like, do they come in dome size? So now I'm unaware of the full economy sized stick, but these are pretty good. Other issues people worry about sometimes are if you have glasses, for example, if you're going to do a ring light or something, how do you keep your glass, the reflections from being visible in your glasses? And if possible, contacts are the first solution. But otherwise, I know that you can go to your optometrist and you can get anti-glare lenses. There's either a coating of some sort, or I'm not sure exactly how it works, but you can get them to do that to your glasses, which is helpful. And when in doubt, instead of putting the ring light or whatever it is right in front of you, get 2 of them and put them at 45-degree angles.
Contacts for $30, anti-glare lenses for a couple $100, or LASIK for $1,000 or $2,000.
There you go. Right. There's your 3 different stages, right? The economy version. And again, when in doubt, get 2 lamps and put them at 45-degree angles. So then the light itself is not reflecting directly from you into the screen.
$10,000 solution, hire somebody to get a meteor, no more problems.
Or that. All right. What else? Questions?
That's brilliant.
Questions. So in the one, I'll say first tip that should have been at the very beginning, remember we talked about real estate. Your monitor is real estate here, but where you rename yourself over here in your window, that's real estate, and it should be developed, as all real estate should be appropriately developed. So when you log in, does it say Junior's iPad? Is that how you want to be known? Don't leave it there. Does it come in with your login instead of your actual name? So does it say Laura Sicola, all lowercase letters and all smushed together in one word as opposed to 2? Does it say are you doing a networking event? How do you want to be known? Some people will put in their pronouns. Some people will in parentheses afterwards. Some people will write their nicknames if they have another nickname that they prefer. Like you may notice that on the I'm registered as blah, 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 but I go by this. So you let people know how to match what you want to be called with what their registration list actually looks like. Some people will put in the organization you represent. So if you're doing a networking and everybody's from different companies, you can say what your company is, or what service you provide, what business you're in, or what business you're really in. You can use pronunciation guides, which is great. If your name does not look the way it sounds, or maybe it is coming from a language background, a cultural background that's not intuitive to pronounce to your audience, whoever they are, then you can adjust that. I love it. Connections Rockstar from Patience. Yes. And that's good. It's like, all right, note to self, it's about connections, it's about connections, it's about connections. She's going to keep reinforcing that every time I look at her face. I'm going to see Connections Rockstar, right?
So you do see that on my screen. It doesn't show, it just shows my last name, but you can see that.
I can see that. That's interesting. So there's something about your settings, but I do see what you've done.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And for what it's worth, on Zoom, if you're the host, you can go in and rename somebody else, which is helpful occasionally. But you should definitely, it's not just about how can you utilize it, but it's also about if you don't. So right now, Gina, you've got yours on and it's kind of Gina McAndrews all in one. It's not separated. It's not capitalized. It's small details. Some people won't care at all. Makes it a little bit harder for people to go, wait, what's your name? Oh, I see. Okay. I should be breaking it after Gina before. So how easy do you make it for people to engage with you? Right? How much work do you put into making them do those kinds of things? And frankly, some people interpret it as, well, how much attention do you pay to detail? Because if you're not even going to pay attention to detail on how your own name looks when you're networking with me, how much detail aren't you going to pay to my work that I'm paying you to do? Right? People make those kinds of associations. Details matter. So just thinking about it, all real estate should be developed carefully.
How does one change their name?
If you take your mouse and you hover over your own picture, you should see 3 little blue dots, or a little blue square with 3 little dots in it. Click those 3 dots and you should see where it says rename.
Oh,
yes. Awesome. And then you can type in Queen of the Universe. You can use it for really anything you want. So I could change this. So here's one more trick that's in there. If you find that watching yourself on video is just too bloody distracting and you can't not look at yourself, then if you, again, hover your mouse over your own picture, see the little blue square with the 3 dots, and then click the dots and click Hide Self View. You will disappear from your own screen, but not from ours. We still see you. And then you can just, oh, you want to come back? Gee, there's a couple of different ways depending. And this is one of those weird things where it sort of depends on the settings of your computer and what version of Zoom you've upgraded to. It could be, if you look over to the right of all of our pictures, you'll see a little button that says Reveal Image, Show Self. There's one that if you look at the bottom where your Stop Video button is, you can click that twice and it'll pop back up again. You can also go into your participants window. And if you go into the participants window right next to your name, you should see a little more button and you should be able to reveal yourself from there. There's a couple of different options. I still see all of you.
Awesome.
And this is one of those frustrating things because sometimes, depending on what version of Zoom people have updated to, or how many versions behind they are, what you think is in one place isn't for them. So you'll end up troubleshooting. So it's always good to know a little bit about whether they're on a mobile device versus a desktop or laptop. If they're tuning in, Rosie's on her phone, other people are on their iPad. The toolbars aren't in the same place on a mobile device. So when you're telling your audience, all right, everybody now go to here and let's all click this. And they're going, where? I can't find it. And then you spend 20 minutes troubleshooting through the chat box. Like, that's not where you want to go. So you want to be able to say, for those of you who are tuning in on a tablet or a mobile device, you'll probably have to swipe over 3 or 4 screens and then you'll find the menu and then you'll be able to do this, or where you see that they know that they will not be able to see you and the chat and the poll and your slides at the same time. So you're going to have to talk them through where to find things. When you're practicing, log on to your own program, your own your own broadcast from other kinds of devices as an attendee to see what it looks like from that end. So you can be like, wait a minute, what do you mean that's not there? Why can't I find my own X? And then play with those devices. You need to have that kind of insight ahead of time. Otherwise, you'll let like the one person who does not know how to find their own enter key suck up
I wonder if there's
the rest of your time.
I wonder if there's automated solutions for things like that, because in years past I've seen like there's software like out there to test like what an app looks like and how it functions on like 10 different devices simultaneously in the cloud. So I wonder if there's got to be something out there from a marketing point of view that you can actually like, and it automatically takes screenshots and send it back to you whenever you make a new version of the site. Like, so like, so there's got to be some way to automate this kind of thing where it's like, you know, what does this look like on 10 different platforms sourced through the cloud or something?
Yes. Yep. Okay. So Brian, you've got homework. Find it. Let us know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now
Brian,
that I brought it up,
volunteering.
open the container.
You've been voluntold, Brian. You're in.
Yes.
Let's see. How does one change their name on Zoom? Okay, yeah, we got you set on that. Cloud. Let's unmute you.
Can't get myself back. I hid my face and now I don't know what I
You can't find you? You still can't find you. Okay, let's see. Where is Cloud? Did you look in your patients? Can you tell Cloud where you found yourself?
So Cloud, I went over to view in the upper right-hand corner. It has that like the two little dots with the little box. I clicked on that and it says show self. I clicked on that and voila, here I am.
It's in the view
I
button.
think that's how easy it is.
You have made me appear. Thank you.
Love your face. You look beautiful.
Awesome.
you.
Caleb, what's up?
So I want to do videos on YouTube. And when I listened to John Dumas, he recommended if you're going to do video with another participant, at a minimum, send them this package so that they sound great and look great. What's that minimum package? My memory was send them a microphone and make sure if they're using their laptop, you know, or a camera. So if that's really, if this interview is that valuable to me, I want to make sure that they sound great, even if I sound great. I don't want them to sound terrible and me sound great.
I have not gone that route because to me, sending every guest, you know, $150 microphone, should I? Maybe, I don't know. I find many don't need it. Some of them do need the help. I do always do a prep call with everybody, and I do recommend the various. I have a sheet that I send them as far as to be a good podcast guest. And I actually just about a month ago did an episode, instead of an interview, I did a solo episode on my own podcast on Speaking to Influence about how to be a great podcast guest. And part of that was equipment recommendations and those kinds of things, because you do need to sound good, if nothing else. So I will talk to them about upgrading, and like rule 1, please don't use your embedded internal mic with your laptop. It's, and sometimes they'll say, oh, I do this all the time and it's fine. Nobody ever has a problem. Like, no, nobody tells you it's a problem because you run a Fortune 100 company and nobody has the cojones to tell you that it's a problem, but it is a problem. And then we have the branding discussion. And then I show them like what I did with you with whatever. So it's like, here's the thing. If you come on your it's fine microphone, I'm going to sound like this when we talk, and you are going to sound
like this when we talk. And if you're okay with your answers sounding like this, while my question
sound like this, then I guess that's just fine. And usually they go, so what mic do you want me to buy? Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And then I'll make my recommendations. But it's like, you can't afford to sound like, you know what? So that's, it doesn't usually, every now and then somebody will really argue with me, and I have lent microphones to people, but I have not gone the degree yet. And it would certainly make me stand out to people if I were, and maybe it is something that I will consider down the line,
Well,
you know,
and
sending a good mic to somebody.
There's lifetime value of the clients to consider as well, of like what of your clients as well as their clients, like what are they going to get from the network that you're bringing them into with podcasts, connections, et cetera, that it's like, you're going to sound like shit in front of 1,000 people, 10,000 people that you could actually do business with.
Right.
So if you're spending is it worth $100 to you to make X amount of sales on 1,000 people that I'm exposing to, or 90 million people that I'm exposing to?
Right. Right.
Well said, Brian. Yeah.
So it is definitely a, as far as brands are concerned, for microphones, and anybody else can feel free to chime in here. Yeti is a good brand. Plantronics is a good brand. Audio-Technica is a good brand.
And Rodrigo just dropped some value in the chat, so that's awesome.
Yep. You got some speaker recommendations
on getting your host set up and being a good,
Awesome.
being a good
Thank
guest.
you.
Awesome.
So, and again, it doesn't matter whether it's a headset with a boom mic or a standalone mic. So here's my step. Here's my process for picking the right microphone for you. First, when you go to Amazon, you want to, and then we'll wrap up in just a moment, but go to Amazon. First, when in doubt, you type in the search, either headset microphone or computer mic, if you have a preference, either way, standalone mic. But click 4 stars and up, do some filters, right? Because you don't want anything with like a 3.2 average rating out of 5. It's got to be 4 point something rating on average. It should be 4 point something average out of hundreds, if not thousands of reviews. You don't want like 6 reviews that said, oh yeah, it's great. Because it's just the manufacturer's like 5 guys in the plant who built it. So it needs to be well vetted by a lot of people. You can put in your price range. So again, to me, $100, $150 is a good sweet spot for a good mic. You're going to find some good quality there. Read the reviews, especially if you're going to do a headset. Look for comfort. It'll never be an official ratings category, but you want to find something that where people will say, look, I wear this all day and it's great. Because otherwise the uncomfortable ones will push on the cartilage of your ears after a while and it can feel bruised. And then you don't want to wear it again, which defeats the purpose.
Right.
I am not a huge Bluetooth fan because when it comes to ear stuff, because again, if you're on for 4, 6, 8 hours a day, it's not going to hold a charge. You don't want to be in the middle of a call with a client and suddenly hear that beep, like with your AirPods, like the little beep that lets you know you've got about 20 minutes left and then we're shutting off on you. That's a very bad place to be in the middle of a business call or a training or a speech you're giving or whatever it is. So at least with a cord, you're safe from that. You're not worried about running out of juice because you forgot to plug in last night and recharge. So check and see what the connector is. You might want to put in USB or USB-C. The more connectors you have to put on, the more degrees removed it's going to be. You want something ideally that'll plug right in without the gazinta, as it were.
Yeah.
If you
for the selection, do we pay attention to if cardio, bidirectional, omnidirectional, stereo?
So when you get to that point, you're under $200. They're not going to make much of a difference, and most of them aren't that technical to know. I mean, I guess some of the Yetis and whatnot will. So cardioid versus, unidirectional versus omnidirectional is important because unidirectional basically means that if you're holding the microphone, this is the only way it's going to pick you up. If you have it, pointing in a different direction, it's really just not going to get you at all. If it's more omnidirectional, it will pick you up from a wider range of, if I turn over here to reach this, is it going to hear me at all or not? So there's a sensitivity and how precise do you have to be with your angle? The other stuff, it gets so technical. I don't think it matters, frankly. You're not trying to win a Grammy, right? I wouldn't, if you're going to start going to the condensers and the cardioids and things, you're talking about a much higher level. And unless you know what to do with that and why it should matter, it basically doesn't. I wouldn't worry about it. But then test and watch the videos that are either on YouTube or on people have used it on the reviews on Amazon itself. If you go to YouTube and you type in the microphone model that you're considering using, you will inevitably find people whose entire video podcast is nothing but testing sound equipment or testing video equipment. And you'll watch them go through all of it. It's like, here's what I like. We've just compared these 3 different microphones, and they go into all the egghead geek out stuff, and this is a blah, 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 cardioid condenser, etc. If you care, good, educate yourself. Otherwise, you probably don't know, but there is all that available on YouTube, and somebody far more knowledgeable about the actual, engineering of the device is very happy to show it to you through their chains. Yep. Through their playlists. Anything else?
I popped a link into the chat about, there's a device I started using last year to add in more of the kinesthetic to these experiences, both seminars as well as like speaking. And it literally is like subwoofers attached to your body. There's like one that wraps around your belt, one that's like more of a 6-pack. It's got six subwoofers
Oh my
and
gosh.
it's like it'll look, and it's hooked into your regular sound system, and you feel it. It's ridiculous. Like there's a portable one, there's an at-home one, and it's insane. Like because instead of just the auditory, just the visual, you also get the felt sense.
That's
Like
hilarious.
Chewbacca.
Yeah, really.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Well, if you watch Star Wars, you're really going to be vibrating. So
I have done hundreds of these trainings over the last year and a half, and only with a group of Plats would this kind of stuff come up. That's awesome. How to look like Chewbacca and bring the audience to you. Whoa.
Laura, why don't you just strap 6 subwoofers to your body?
Why didn't I think of that? Okay, I have to make an amendment to my next video on my. That's awesome. All right. Well, ladies and germs, again, I would love to speak with any of you who have some feedback. I actually have a 3 o'clock call that I'm going to need to jump on here in just a moment. But again, any feedback you have on this, would love to spend like at least 1 or 2 minutes just on big takeaways here. But if you know people who would be interested in helping with affiliate work or who do sales, again, if you check out virtualinfluence.today, it's not .com, but .today. That's the online course that I'm running, and you can see what all the modules are. There's 7 modules, 40 videos. They're all about 5 to 10 minutes a piece. You could really knock out the whole thing in a week, frankly. But there's worksheets and there's all sorts of resources and equipment recommendations and that kind of stuff, which would really appreciate any feedback or thoughts, just to help me think outside of my box about how to do this. So you can contact me. I'll put my email in the chat. And it's just Laura at vocalimpactproductions.com. Come on, work. Laura at, I can spell.
Laura, I'll send you some information. I was just thinking, there's a possibility. You're on the East Coast. There's a possibility you might be able to meet someone like Simon Sinek in person in 3 weeks. Because he might be in this room. It's all this stuff with Unblinded, Sean Callaghy, Peter Swain's doing all this thing. So I'll send you some details on that, because I was just like, as you're speaking, I was like he might be there, and people like him are definitely there. And I'm like, getting you in a room with people like that would just be.
That would be awesome.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you. And if you know of any organizations that would appreciate this as a more formalized training, or conferences that would appreciate a talk about this, and I actually train conference speakers, like the whole cadre of speaker lineup, to do a virtual conference. So that it's like great if they're awesome on stage, but you got to be on video. It doesn't translate automatically. So I'll do trainings for the lineups of speakers if you know of conferences who would like to up their game overall. Cloud, you wanted to share something?
Yeah, really quick. I'll do New Jersey talk because I know you have to jump on the other thing.
I can totally follow.
Okay, I just want to know really quickly how your ideal client really looks like, so we can all refer the Kajulis, Kajabis, Kajagets out of you, because we really want to refer you. This was awesome, but I want you to talk to us about that. And then I had a little idea for leveraging us for you. We can talk about it later, but please let us all know your ideal client.
Thank you. It is generally speaking a larger organization, a company that, whether it's Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, I do plenty of work with nonprofits as well, frankly. Talking ideal, having a budget is always useful, but I do plenty with nonprofits, do plenty of work with smaller companies where they just want their whole management or their whole leadership team, their sales team, to level up, because their sales teams have to look and sound great on video, since that's how they're meeting people. But those are, I do one-on-ones, coaching sessions as well, of course, but that's different. But for this particular service, any organization that needs their whole brand to be better here, that's who I want to talk to. So thank you for asking, Cloud. All right, would love feedback. Anything, any thoughts you have, any introductions, any critiques, please tell me what I could do better here. And would love to hear back from you. You've got my email and my phone number in the chat. So on that note, thank you, all of you. Talk to you again soon.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Great job.